Cnbc Africa's Christy was at the National Collation Center in Abuja during the Nigeria's presidential election. She joins us now to share her highlights from the coverage. Thank you so much, Christy, for being here today.
It's good to be back in the studio with you, Esther.
It's quite interesting. I mean, we had this very dramatic election cycle. There was a lot of rhetoric before in the run-up to the election, and then we had all kinds of elements, election violence, we had voter apathy, and according to statistics, this was voter turnout was 35.7%, as lowest since Nigeria's elections since the 1999 elections. So, but talk to us about your experience. What were those things that stood out for you? Voter apathy, and just being on the ground and getting the pulse of the elections, as it were.
I'll tell you, first of all, Esther, what was different from the 2015 elections due to the pre-elections violence, and then at about the same time the country was struggling with the Boko Haram situation, terrorism and all that. Even I, as a journalist, requested to be called home at the time that the collation was on. You would remember that. I was back in Lagos before collation. So you know that that definitely stands out as different this time around in 2019. We stood until the end of collation. So there wasn't, if whatever tension was being seen in different parts of the country, some spotlights or different areas, was not as general as it was in the previous elections. So there was a sense of serenity, sense of coordination, sense of safety. Even within the collation center inside the ICC, there was a sense of calmness that was not in any way connected to fear. It looked as though we had been through this before, and as such, there was a system, quote unquote, in place, and everybody just knew what to do at what time. Even when it did get heated at some point with the representatives of the political parties raising one point of order or another, it did look quite coordinated. So I got a sense of that security. Many observers and political analysts have in some way attributed that to, first of all, the president's heated speech few days to the election, and then the 360 degrees turnaround on elections eve, where he came in an attempt to me, it looked like it was an attempt to douse tension and explain to people election is not war, it's not a do-or-die affair. Let people go out and vote persons of their choice into whatever office they want, whether at the national level, at the presidential level, or at the parliamentary level.
I mean, being in that hall, especially when the results were being read out from different different states, and that section where people were allowed to make, complaints. I saw a couple of other political parties raising issues around, the number of votes that were cast or counted for their political parties, and the numerous discrepancies in the numbers, and just, I don't know, attending to those issues and also being able to move on as INEC chairman, saying, okay, I've taken your complaints into consideration.
Yes, the numbers were definitely a point of issue. I tell you one of them. President Buhari, having polled 15.17, or let's just say 15.2 million votes, as opposed to the opposition's 11.2 million votes, had a margin of 3.9 million. So that was one of the interesting points of order raised by the PDP representative Osita Chidoka, who said that the impact of the cancelled votes, according to the findings of the PDP, did affect as many as 2.8 million voters across the country.
Meaning that those, because of, because it was cancelled, postponed the first time, people decided we're not, motivated to come out.
The postponement, and then the cancellations across certain polling units due to violence or inefficiency of the smart card readers or the polling officers not understanding the procedure. So he did say that a collective, when you put those situations together, they did have impact. According to the PDP, the INEC has said they have admitted that and they will look at that, but they are questioning definitely the margin of victory. That's the 3.9 million margin of victory. Now, you mentioned something interesting earlier. 20 years into Nigeria's democracy, lowest voter turnout. That did caught my eyes earlier, and I was looking at the numbers. You see my papers scattered all over my front. 180 million people and counting. That's the estimation. As far back as 2015, we were saying 170 million people estimated and counting, and we were able to record 91 million voters, 2015. Now, in 2019, 180 million people and over, some will tell you estimated 189, 190 million people, were recorded 72 million PVCs collection.
Wow.
So that's a drop. And now we had 37% voters participation in the election process. So you can see from the numerics that that's a downward drop. And you cannot separate that from disillusionment already with the policy prior to elections, and definitely the yearning of people for the intervention or the coming up of a third force was not met. Definitely.
Physical, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. And of course, well done. Very good job with that elections coverage. Cnbc Africa's Christy Cole. Now, before we go, a quick market update. Nigeria's OSHA index was down 1.3% today at 31,809.23.